Hey, my name's Joseph. My wife once told me I was too soft to fight her. Then she took my house, turned my daughter against me, and filed for divorce like I was nothing. I stayed quiet until my lawyer hit send. 10 minutes later, she was on her knees, begging me to talk. Now tell me what could break a woman that fast? I always said peace don't come easy, but in my house, it used to slip through the cracks, like sunlight through worn-out blinds. That morning felt no different. I had gospel playing soft in the kitchen mahalia, maybe, or Reverend James Cleveland, and the smell of coffee crept up like memory. I moved slow, bones stiff, but heart steady. At 62, you learn to savor the silence. I stood by the window, watching the sun stretch itself over the Atlanta trees. Tanya and we'd been through everything. Lost jobs, lost friends, family deaths, a near foreclosure once. We didn't break, or at least I thought we didn't. My daughter Amara had been gone a while. Chicago now. Barely calls unless she needs something fixed. But even with that distance, I figured we were all right. Not perfect, but solid. A quiet understanding, held together by years and vows. Then the phone buzzed. I expected a message from Willie or one of the fellas from church, but no. Joseph, I filed for divorce this morning. Please don't call. I stared at the screen. The words didn't move, but something inside me did. Twisted, recoiled. The cup slipped from my hand and spilled coffee all over the counter. That smell I loved now burned. For a second, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she meant to send that to somebody else. I reread it 3 times. Each time felt louder than the last. I laughed. Not loud. Just one of those bitter little exhales that carry too much truth. 40 years, I whispered. She filed for divorce by text. My hands didn't shake. I didn't throw the phone. I grabbed a towel and wiped the form. Counter. That small act. It gave me back a bit of control. The gospel still played, but now it sounded distant, like someone else's comfort. Truth is, I saw it coming. The late work trips, the dinners where silence sat louder than words. She hadn't looked at me the same in months. A man who lets anger lead is a man who's already lost, and I wasn't about to lose myself. I sat down at the table, inhaled slow, let the quiet stretch. No yelling, no panic, just still. Old habits kicked in. I opened my laptop, the one I kept more out of routine than need, and clicked into my emails. There it was, from her lawyer. Notice of filing divorce proceedings initiated. No greeting, no warmth, just lines and dates and cold formality. I read every word, then again. Then something shifted in me. The fog cleared. I opened a new tab, found my attorney's contact info from that messy property dispute years ago. I typed quick, need to discuss urgent personal matter. Please acknowledge and notify opposing counsel. I hit send, and I smiled. It wasn't joy, it was something sharper. A man only smiles like that when he's reminded that he's not a fool. 2 can play this game, but only one of us knows the rules. Barely 10 minutes passed before my phone lit up again. This time, she was calling. I didn't answer. A second later, a text. Joseph, please don't do this. Can we talk? It's not what you think. Another one. It's complicated. I didn't mean to hurt you. And another. Please. I watched the messages roll in, one by one, then stop, then start again. I didn't reply. Sometimes silence carries more weight than words ever could. You never see folks panic, I thought, until they realize your silence ain't a weakness, it's a statement. I leaned back, letting the same gospel tune drift through the kitchen. But it sounded different now, like a farewell. In life, I murmured, people confuse patience with weakness. But patience? That's the purest form of strength. I reached up and pulled the blinds halfway closed. Let just enough light in. Enough to see, but not enough to blind me. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. It was my lawyer. We sent the acknowledgement. They'll have it in writing by end of day. I didn't say much, just, thank you. When the call ended, I stared out the window. 10 minutes. That's all it took for her to remember what she threw away. And then, the doorbell rang. The house didn't feel like mine no more. Same couch, same walls. But it all echoed now, like somebody turned up the volume on the quiet. I sat in that same chair I hadn't moved from all day. Lights low, blinds still half shut like my heart. The gospel music was off now. Just me, and the sound of the fridge humming, the clock ticking, the house creaking as the day began to die. You think silence is peaceful, until it screams at you. I heard everything. Every damn thing. Every step Tanya used to take down the hallway, I heard the absence of it. Every laugh we used to share in this living room, now it was just shadows dancing across the walls. Funny how space can feel crowded with what ain't there. I thought back over the months. Not days, not weeks, months. That slow burn of something slipping. She hadn't touched my hand in a while. Not with meaning. Her voice had this clipped tone lately, like she was already talking to someone else in her head while she was speaking to me. When her text started begging, that wasn't love trying to come back. That was control losing its grip. I reached for the whiskey bottle. Not to drink it, not yet. Just held it. Sat it on the table next to me, like a man reminding himself he could, but chose not to. I thought about last Thursday night, family dinner. Just the two of us. Amara had called an hour before and said, "I'm not coming. It's always something with y'all." Her tone had that cold edge, like she was done with both of us. That dinner, Tanya sat across from me, barely touching her plate. Eyes low. Not a word unless I asked. Even then, her answers were short, like her patience was on a timer, and it had already hit 0. I told myself she was tired. That work was heavy, but I knew better. I knew what distance feels like when it ain't accidental. Tonight, I opened my bank email. Just routine. Clicked through, and there it was. Alert from 2 days ago. $12,384.72 withdrawal from joint account. I stared at it for a long minute. She ain't just leave. She prepared it like she was plotting a business exit. Quiet, clean, calculated. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Didn't write a single word in the body. Just hit send. I leaned back and whispered, "All right then. That's how we playin' it." Her texts kept coming after that. One every hour like clockwork. She shifted tone like changing clothes. "Joseph, please. I just needed space. Are you ignoring me? Don't do this. It's complicated. We can fix it." Then nothing for a while. Then, "You're being cold. That's not like you." I didn't respond to any of them. There's a saying my grandfather used to spit when I was too trusting, "Don't answer a knock from the devil just 'cause it's wearing perfume." She stopped being my piece a long time ago. I just refused to admit it. I scrolled through my gallery. Stopped on a photo from Thanksgiving, her arm around me. Both of us smiling. But tonight, I looked closer. Her smile wasn't reaching her eyes. Mine looked hopeful. I hit delete. First time in 40 years, I deleted her picture without hesitation. Around 7, someone knocked. I stood slow, pulled open the door. It was Charles. That man hadn't come by in months since we stopped doing the men's Bible group on Saturdays. He said nothing at first, just looked at me. I moved aside. We sat out front on the porch, just like old times. "I heard something," he said. "From Tanya's cousin. Figured you could use a porch talk." I didn't confirm or deny anything, just sat with the weight of it all. "Sometimes," I told him, "losing someone gives you back pieces of yourself you forgot you gave away." He nodded slow. "Just don't let bitterness take root, brother. Justice ain't the same as revenge." "I ain't chasing revenge," I said. "I'm looking for my peace, wherever I left it." We sat a while longer, talking about old songs, the neighborhood changing, how the young folk don't know nothing about slowing down. When he left, I stood in the doorway a long minute before checking the mailbox. Inside was a single envelope. My name, in her handwriting. I held it like it might bite. Didn't open it. I walked inside, placed it on the kitchen counter, stared at it. Sometimes, it's the letter you don't open that tells you everything you need to know. The sun was hanging high when I pulled into the bank parking lot. I hadn't eaten, didn't feel the need, just coffee and quiet, same as the day before. But today was different. Today, I came looking for clarity. The credit union lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and new money, that sterile calm that makes you feel like whatever brought you there better be good. I sat down across from the young banker, a polite man in a blue shirt with a crooked name tag. He smiled like this was just another Tuesday. I just need some details on a withdrawal from a joint account, I said, sliding my ID and account number across. He typed a few things, nodded like it was all normal. Yes, Mr. Harper. That withdrawal was flagged for confirmation. It was noted as for emergency home repairs. I stared at him a beat longer than I should have. He didn't blink. She told you all that? I asked quietly. He nodded, not catching the shift in my voice. That woman hadn't fixed so much as a loose doorknob in 5 years. I leaned back, breath still, jaw tight. I already knew it was a lie, but hearing it said aloud, it burned different. Then came the twist. The banker cleared his throat. Also, on the same day, a new account was opened, under the name Tanya Livingston. That's her maiden name, I believe. I didn't say anything, just nodded like he hadn't. Just told me my wife, my partner for 40 years, was already moving, like she never knew me. I took the receipt and walked out. Sat in the car with the engine off, my hands still on the steering wheel. I stared at the ATM screen through the windshield, not really seeing it. My fingers crumpled the paper without meaning to. She already knew she was leaving, I muttered to myself. Been planning it like a damn blueprint while calling me baby at dinner. It wasn't anger boiling, not yet. It was something colder, cleaner. You used my name, I whispered, but you don't own my story. I drove straight to the rec center after that. Something told me I needed to breathe somewhere. I once felt like a man. The place hadn't changed much, kids still outside tossing a basketball around, paint chipping near the front door, but it smelled like memories. Miss Elaine, bless her, was still holding down the front desk like she owned the place. Well, look what the wind blew in, she smiled. You look like you seen a ghost, Joe. Something like that, I said. We chatted. Light stuff at First Old Church, folks. The league season, how slow things had been. Then I heard him behind me. That voice I hadn't heard in years. Didn't think they let folks back in here after they lose everything. Jamal, Tanya's son from before we met. Grown now, still carrying the same chip on his shoulder he had when he was 13. I turned slowly, kept my voice even. Watch how you speak about a man who fed your mouth for 10 years. He grinned like it was a joke. Mama says you're not even on the house title, he said, loud enough for Elaine to hear, before walking off with that smug little strut he always had. I didn't respond, but the words stayed with me like a song on repeat. Back at the house, I tore through the filing cabinet. Mortgage statements, property tax receipts, old envelopes with my handwriting on them. My name nowhere, just hers. My pride didn't break. It bent under the weight of what I had given, what I had assumed. They wanted me quiet, I whispered. Uninformed. That ends today. I grabbed a notepad. Call attorney request deed. Meet real estate advisor. Protect assets. I wrote it down like a war plan. They can try to take your home, but they can't take your manhood unless you let 'em, my uncle once said. His voice came back clear, steady. I pressed the pen too hard. It snapped in half. Later that day, I sat in my lawyer's office, telling him everything. The hidden account, the story she gave the bank, the house title. He just nodded, taking notes, frowning the way men do when something smells off. She hid assets pre-divorce. That's not gonna sit well with a court, he said. Good, I replied. Start the process. I want a freeze on all accounts. Every dime she moved under my name, I want it tracked. He leaned back. "We'll start with property investigation. If you put money into that house, there's a way." We ended the meeting in silence. That night I was back home, watching the sunset creep through the blinds. Then my phone buzzed. Voicemail. Unknown number. I played it on speaker. "Daddy, it's me, Amara. There's something you need to know. About Mom. About the house. Please call me back." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the button, but I didn't press it. Not yet. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, something felt off. Not wrong, not threatening, just off, like a song playing in the wrong key. The porch light was already on, even though I hadn't turned it on, and when I stepped inside, there were folding chairs set up in a loose half circle in the living room. I counted 5, maybe 6. Neat, spaced out, like someone expected company. But no one said a word to me. I heard voices low, hushed, coming from the back. Odessa's sharp tongue, Malcolm's chuckle, and another voice, Tanya's. They were gathered without me. I stood in the hallway, didn't step all the way in. There was a sliver between the doorframe and the edge of the hallway wall, enough for me to peek through. I didn't want to see, but I had to. Had to know who thought they had authority in a house I kept warm. Tanya stood with a glass in her hand, gesturing. Confident. Like she owned every inch of that room. Odessa leaned in, nodding, and Malcolm sat with legs crossed, like he was in on the secret. Nobody mentioned my name. They just talked like I didn't live here anymore. They planned this without me, I thought. A house built on silence, just like her. I didn't make a sound. Didn't let the wood creak. I backed away, step by step, until I reached the den. I sat there in the dark, listening to laughter in my house, laughter I wasn't invited to. Later that night, I was in the kitchen making tea. She came in like she owned the hour. Tanya, hair wrapped, nails done, calm in her walk like confrontation was beneath her. She didn't say hello. She said, "This was always mine, you were just passing through." I didn't flinch, just kept stirring the spoon in the cup. She kept going. "The bedroom? Mine. The car? Mine. The furniture? The dishes? Even this floor? Under your feet? All mine. You were just visiting." I looked her square. "By which law did you make a king? Of nothing?" She blinked, didn't have a comeback, just turned and walked out the room. I didn't follow. Instead, I opened the drawer, pulled out the mortgage papers again. I laid them out across the kitchen counter, side by side, pulled out my laptop, went to the county's public records website, typed in the property number. She was right. Her name, only hers. But something in me didn't break this time. I sat in the dark, couch beneath me, back stiff from sitting too long. I stared at the ceiling, breathing slow. Every birthday we celebrated in this house. Every argument, every moment of silence, after she left the room mad. All of it, now a ledger of what she was erasing. My name, my memories, my time. "If you want war," I whispered to no one, "you already live in my home." I opened the notebook my lawyer gave me, read through the legal routes, quiet moves, smart ones. I was ready now. Then came the knock. Soft, measured, like someone unsure if they should even be here. I opened the door, and there she was, Amara, eyes red, shoulders tight. She looked like a little girl again. "Daddy," she breathed out. I had to come. I stepped aside without a word. She walked in, clutching a folder like it held secrets she wished she didn't know. I overheard Mom. She was talking to her friends, laughing. Said you never owned a thing, that everything was always hers. I pulled her into my arms, held her, let her cry. "I'm here," I said, "and I still stand." She handed me the folder. Inside bank records, screenshots, even text messages. Property listings. One of them had the house listed under her name, posted 3 weeks ago. I sat down, heavy. This folder didn't feel like paper. It felt like betrayal. I didn't say a word, just stared at it, and then I heard it. Tanya's car pulling into the driveway. Sunlight had barely crept in when I sat at my desk. The folder Amara gave me spread out like a crime scene. My fingers hesitated over each page, but my eyes didn't. I had to know. I had to face it. Email drafts Tanya to her sister plain as day. By spring, he won't even notice he's been phased out. Then the texts. Tanya and Odessa, mocking me. He still think this house is his castle. Let him dream. Let him dream. I read it twice. Then I saw it, a scanned document I didn't recognize. Prenup, addendum. My name typed, initials scribbled. But I never touched that paper. I zoomed in. Those weren't my initials. Not even close. I stared for a long while, heart slow and heavy. Then I whispered, "So you played chess," while I poured the wine. An hour later, I was in my lawyer's office, folder in hand, throat dry. I laid it all out. He studied the papers quietly. His expression didn't change much, but his eyes did. "This," he tapped the forged signature, "is a felony if proven, and it shifts the entire posture of the case." I nodded. "File it." He looked at me for a beat. "You sure?" "She's sure. I'm just catching up." We moved fast after that. Forgery claim. Cease and desist letter. New notarized statement, blocking her from using my name in any document tied to finances, property, or image. I signed the papers slowly, carefully. When I finished, I leaned back. "We're not just defending anymore," I said. "We're reclaiming." By afternoon, I found myself sitting in the car, hands gripping the wheel too tight, and out of nowhere, memory hit. 2 years ago, she was on the phone, late at night, whispering. Laptop open, screen changed, the second I walked in. "It's just work," she said. Sweet, calm. I believed her, wanted peace, more than truth. But it wasn't peace I was protecting. It was her lies. That night, Amara had come down the stairs. "Dad, you okay?" I smiled and told her, "Just tired, baby." I lied through my teeth. Back home, I took down the family portraits. Each nail that came out of the wall sounded louder than it should have. Then I separated our documents, hers in one pile, mine in another. I placed her framed awards neatly on her desk. Put a sticky note on top. "You built this without me. Keep it." And for the first time in weeks, I cooked. Just for me. Nothing fancy: eggs, grits, sausage. Sat at the kitchen table with a cloth napkin and ate slow. Took back that moment. I dropped a record on the turntable. Otis Redding's voice filled the house like breath. I spoke aloud, not to anyone, just to the air. They taught me a man don't cry, but they forgot to teach me a man can burn and still stand tall. Evening was falling when the email came through. Subject line: "You deserve to know the whole truth." No name, no greeting, just an attachment. I clicked. Photo loaded. Tanya and Malcolm, arm in arm, smiling, at a couple's retreat. Dated 1 year ago. I didn't cry, I didn't shout, but the pressure in my head made the screen blur. And I knew some fires don't flicker, they wait. The first thing I saw that afternoon wasn't the sunlight coming in through the blinds. It was the envelope under my coffee mug, right there on the kitchen table. White, creased, with my name in Amara's handwriting. No text, no call, just that letter. Something about it stopped me mid-step. I sat down, slid the envelope out from under the mug, and opened it with hands I didn't know were trembling. Her words were raw, honest. "Daddy, I'm confused. But I believe you. I saw the messages between Mom and Aunt Odessa. I know you didn't lie. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner." She wrote about her pain, said she felt torn between two people she was supposed to trust. But she never said she doubted me. Not once. She wrote, "You don't need to prove yourself to me. I see what they're doing." My throat tightened. I reread it slower, again, then again. I pressed it to my chest for a second. My mind flashed back to her as a little girl, asking if monsters were real. And now, here she was, pointing to the real ones. I folded it carefully and slid it into my shirt pocket, right over my heart. Didn't need armor. I had her words. I grabbed my keys and headed straight to the county records office. No appointment. No warning. Just walked in and told the clerk what I needed. Title deeds, grant history, anything tied to our house. She looked me over for a beat too long before disappearing into the back. I waited, fists tight in my coat pockets. When she returned, she handed me a thick folder. "Sir, there's a quitclaim filed here. Might want to read that closely." There, it was filed years ago. My name, stripped off the property, without my knowledge, sealed and signed under Tanya's maiden name. I flipped through the pages, snapping pictures of each one, time-stamped everything. The chain of title showed exactly what I needed. Tanya had been planning her exit long before the first lawyer got involved. I sent my attorney a message. "Just found documents that blow her claim out the water." He replied, fast, "Bring them now." On the way back home, I drove in silence. A silence different than usual. Not empty, just waiting. The house greeted me like it didn't recognize me anymore. Same door, same floors, but it didn't feel like mine. I stepped through slowly, room by room, looking at what was left. Our family pictures were still up, her laugh frozen in the frame, the couch where we used to argue over what to watch, the kitchen counter where we made pancakes when the kids were little. Every inch of it whispered something false. "This place used to echo with my kids' voices," I said under my breath. Now it lies like she does. No tears, no fist to walls, just breath. Cold, measured. I turned back out the door, papers in hand, and drove to the lawyer's office. He met me in the small back room with a legal pad already in hand. I placed the photos, the letter from Amara, the quitclaim, all of it on his desk. He took one look and leaned back in his chair. "Joe, this isn't just leverage. This is fraud. Concealment. You've got more than grounds. You've got fire." I nodded once. "If she built this house on lies, I'll take it down brick by brick." That's when the energy changed. He started drafting. Motions, filings, demands for full disclosure, a freeze on assets, forensic accounting. I signed each one, slow, intentional, like drawing a line in the dirt that nobody was crossing again. When I walked out of that office, I wasn't dragging my feet anymore. Dusk had started to settle, orange light bouncing off windshields, people heading home. I got in the car, let it idle, just breathing. Halfway back, at a red light, my phone lit up. Text from Malcolm. "You think you know everything? You haven't heard the half." I stared at it, read it twice. My grip tightened around the wheel. That kid, my son, still had secrets, and I wasn't sure I wanted to hear them all, but I would. I put the car in drive and rolled forward, headlights cutting through the dark. Chapter 7. The Reckoning of My Name. It was just past noon when I heard about the event. Tanya and Malcolm were holding a press conference on the courthouse steps. They were calling it a celebration of legacy, unveiling a scholarship in honor of Hoover Claiborne, my late father. That name meant something in this city, but mine wasn't even printed on the banner. I didn't plan to go. I sat in my truck for a long while, hands gripping the wheel, trying to decide if showing up would make me look desperate. But then I thought of my daughter's letter, her words still folded in my shirt pocket. "You don't have to prove who you are. I see what they're doing." That was all I needed. So I drove down there, parked across from the courthouse, and watched them from the curb. Tanya was glowing in her red blazer, all smiles for the cameras. Malcolm stood beside her, tall, confident, rehearsed. Every flash of the camera felt like a lie printed in light. When the applause started, I walked forward. I could feel every eye turned toward me, but I didn't rush. I climbed the steps and stopped right beside the podium. Nobody said a word. I reached for the mic, looked out at the crowd, and said slow and clear, "My name, my life, my work, not your afterthought." You could have heard a pin drop. Tanya's smile cracked. Malcolm took a half step toward me, unsure whether to stop me or listen. I looked at the reporters. "You talk about legacy, but you forgot who laid the first brick. You forgot the name that carried this dream before it was worth taking pictures of. Then I set the mic back down. Didn't shout, didn't beg. Just let silence hang like smoke over the whole event. I walked off the stage. Behind me, the crowd began to murmur. Some clapped, confused. Others whispered. Tanya's voice, tight and clipped, followed after me. Joseph, this isn't your moment. You need to leave. Back behind the stage, where the reporters couldn't see, I turned to her and pulled a folded envelope from my pocket. You built your empire on stolen ground, I said. You think I wouldn't find the proof? Her face stiffened when she saw the seal, the county records. I laid the copies on the table one by one. The quitclaim, the hidden deed, the forged signature. Every move you made to erase me. Malcolm came storming up. Dad, enough. You sound bitter. You're embarrassing yourself. I met his eyes and said, bitter men don't bring evidence. Bitter men lie. This, I tapped the document, is truth. He looked away, couldn't hold my gaze. I read the line out loud. Joseph Claiborne's claim to property hereby relinquished, forged under my name, notarized under yours. I paused, feeling my breath steady. You can't bury a man's legacy with ink and deceit. A sound rose from the other side of the curtain people were recording. Someone must have opened the flap, catching everything on camera. Within seconds, I could see the glow of phones lifted in the crowd. Tanya whispered, You don't know what you're doing. I do, I said. I'm reclaiming my name. Then, through that curtain, I saw Amara step forward, my daughter. She came right to my side, voice trembling but strong. That's my father's name, she said into the nearest microphone. Don't erase it. Her words hit like thunder. One of Tanya's sisters hissed, You're choosing him? After all she did for you? Amara turned, steady now. She taught me how to speak. He taught me how to tell the truth. The crowd roared, half with approval, half with noise I didn't care about anymore. I just stood there, her hand on my shoulder, and felt the ground settle under my feet for the first time in years. I turned to the crowd and said, I didn't fight to divide this family. I fought to be seen. To make sure my name doesn't disappear from the story I built. That's when Pastor Glenn pushed his way through. This man, he said, pointing at me, built half this program with his own hands. You don't steal a man's name and call it community work. The reporters swarmed again. Tanya tried to smile for them, but the mask had cracks now. Later that afternoon, my lawyer met me on the courthouse steps. You've got the crowd, now let's get the court, he said, sliding open his briefcase. We went back inside, found an open bench in the lobby. He laid the papers flat, emergency motions to restore my name, block the forged documents, and subpoena the digital records. Let's make it public, I said. No more shadows. He nodded. Then sign it right here. I took the pen and signed each page slow, deliberate. Each stroke felt like taking back another inch of the ground they'd stolen. When I finished, I looked up at Tanya, who was standing a few feet away, still trying to compose herself for the cameras. You built your empire on shadows, I told her quietly. I'm bringing light. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence said it all. By evening, I was back in my car. The sky had turned deep blue. City lights flickering on like old memories. My phone buzzed. A text. No name. You think that was the end? Wait until you see the next move. I looked up, and there, across the parking lot, Malcolm was standing by his car, phone in hand, watching me. I stared back, didn't blink, didn't move. If he wanted to play this game, he'd learn something his mother never did. I don't scare easy. The evening air felt electric as I pulled into the driveway. The gathering Tanya arranged was already in full swing. Neighbors, church folks, cousins I hadn't seen in years. She stepped forward as I exited my car, arms open. We're still family, she said, her tone soft for everyone's ears. Her hug was public theater. I accepted it. My chest tight, my mind cold. I felt the bones beneath that embrace hollow. I patted her shoulder politely, then slipped my phone into my palm, screen hidden from sight. It was too staged, too clean. She wanted people to see reconciliation, to blur the lines. But I knew. That kind of hug fits ill. It's more betrayal and silk than a slap in the face. Inside, people had taken seats in the living room. A soft murmur rose as I walked in. Then I saw Amara tucked beneath her jacket, a shirt with pale print peeking through. My real hero. His silhouette faded into the fabric, but I recognized her meaning instantly. She caught my gaze, eyes softening. Some guests turned their heads, whispered. Others stared in surprise. My heart hammered. She picked me today. I nodded to old allies, church members, family friends, who never stopped supporting me. Her shirt spoke louder than words. It made a statement I hadn't had to voice yet. Later, Tony, a mutual friend, respected in our community, pulled me aside near the punch bowl. He said quietly, "Here's something your wife forgot to mention." He passed me a sealed packet. I looked at him, then at the people around us. In one smooth motion, I opened it in front of witnesses. Documents, emails, audio files fell onto the table. The room grew cold. Eyes widened. Phones came out. A hush settled. I picked up the top document and read aloud. This was never a joint home. That quitclaim was forged. Tanya froze, mid-sip of punch, the cup slipping from her hand. Malcolm's face turned pale. I stood tall. "You built a life on erasure," I said. "Now these papers speak louder than any lie you've told." Without yelling, I walked to the front of the room, cleared my throat, then addressed everyone, neighbors, kin, church elders. I laid out the facts. I stated not just demand, but expectation. If you doubt me, read these yourself. If you defend her lies, you defend theft. I never raised my voice, but there was fire beneath the calm. Many pulled out phones to record. Some stood, speechless. Amara stood at my side, silent strength beside me. Tanya lunged forward, voice trembling. "You think this proves you right? You'll regret this." Then the lights cut out. Sudden darkness swallowed the room. Panic erupted. Gasps, whispers, phones, lighting faces in the gloom. Phones flashed like distant stars in a black sky. A scream echoed somewhere in the crowd. My heart raced not from fear, but from the weight of what just shifted. The sun came through the blinds, slow and steady that morning, painting thin gold lines across my kitchen table. My new apartment was small, but it had peace in every corner, quiet floors, clean air, a view that caught light instead of shadows. I woke up before the city stirred, sitting with a cup of black coffee that had gone half cold. It was the kind of silence that didn't ache anymore. Just a stillness that said, "You made it." I reached for my notebook, the same worn one that had followed me through lawyers' offices and court benches. The leather was cracked, the pages bent, but it held more of me than any house ever had. On the first blank line I wrote, "Peace doesn't always mean people stop fighting. Sometimes it just means you stop fighting yourself." The words sat heavy and right. For the first time in years, they didn't sting. My phone buzzed beside me, a message from Amara. "Can we walk today?" I smiled. That wasn't a truce. It was something better. Repair. By afternoon, we were walking side by side in the park, a few blocks from my place. Autumn had started to whisper through the trees, leaves turning brittle. The wind cool enough to remind you time was moving. Amara had her hands deep in her jacket pockets, staring at the path instead of me. "I'm moving in with Aunt Denise," she said finally. "I need to start over. Malcolm's not who I thought he was." I didn't rush to answer. I let her voice fill the air, let her own words meet the quiet. "I've been going to therapy," she continued. "It's strange realizing how much of what I believed wasn't mine. I let people tell me who you were, and I just went along with it. I thought keeping peace meant keeping quiet." I looked at her same face I'd watched grow from laughter and scraped knees into the woman standing beside me now. I said softly, "You didn't fail me, baby. You just trusted someone who didn't earn it. We all do that once. What matters is what you do after." Her breath steadied. We walked on without talking for a while, the sound of leaves crunching underfoot filling the space words couldn't. For the first time in a long time, I felt like she wasn't my opponent anymore, just my daughter again. 2 days later, I stood in the courthouse for the last time. The same halls that once felt like judgment now just looked tired. My lawyer handed me the folder with the final paperwork. "It's all official now," he said. "Divorce finalized. Property restored." She settled out of court. I ran my thumb along the edge of the folder, nodded once. "Guess that's that." As we walked toward the exit, Tanya appeared at the end of the hallway, dressed sharp as ever, but her eyes, they'd lost that edge. She walked right past me, whispering, "You always were too soft." I turned slightly toward her voice. "That softness built an army," I said quietly. "You just never saw it." She didn't look back. Outside, the sky was clear, no storms left in it. I stood there, a long minute before heading home. Later that week, I drove to the old house. The "for sale" sign out front leaned slightly in the grass. Inside, the rooms were bare. The air smelled like dust and memory. Every step echoed. I walked from room to room, touching the walls that had once held more shouting than laughter. In the kitchen, I tore a page from my notebook and wrote, "This house has ghosts, but also blessings. Don't be afraid to open the windows." I taped it to the inside of a cabinet door. As I stepped outside, something near the garden caught my eye. An old photo wedged between two boards of the porch. It was me, Tanya, and Amara. All smiles, all hope. I held it for a moment, then walked to the fire pit behind the shed and placed it in the center. I struck a match, dropped it in. I didn't stay to watch it burn. Some endings don't need witnesses. "I let go," I murmured, not because it was easy, but because it was time. That evening, I sat by the lake behind my apartment, phone in hand. I started a voice recording, maybe for a podcast, maybe for my family one day. My voice came out low, even. "This is Joseph Claiborne," I said, "a man who lost more than he thought he could, and found more than he thought he deserved." Maya Angelou once said, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." I guess that's what this is, not an ending, just a different kind of start. I stopped recording. The light was fading, painting the lake orange and silver. I closed my notebook and leaned back, breathing in the evening air. Something slipped from between the pages and landed near my shoe, an envelope, old and slightly crumpled. I picked it up and turned it over. The handwriting was familiar. Return address, Malcolm Jr. For a moment, I just stared at it. The wind moved softly through the trees. I didn't open it, not yet. Because some chapters don't start when you read them.